Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Topic. And this week, Dan, I'm running. In fact, I'm doing so much running, I don't know what I'm running from or where I'm going to, but what I know is I'm known for running. I'm Alex.
And this week, you're going to find me reversing through Rome in a yellow Fiat 500.
You are. And who are you?
Well, I'm not Tom Cruise.
No.
But am I Dan?
We're not sure. Have you got the mask on? He's peeling it off, guys.
No mask. I'm real. I'm legit.
He is. And this week, well, we are, as you guessed it, looking at the title of this episode. We're talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Banging.
Film review. Because, of course, we did the On The Go last week, from the week before. And we had lots of fun, Dan.
We did.
It was a usual fare. We were walking through Gun Wharf, sights and sounds, and we were reflecting straight from the cinema seats. Very comfy seats in View Cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but every time I go there, they feel even more comfortable.
Shout out to my bank as well for giving us half-price tickets.
I mean,
wow.
Banks aren't everyone's friends at the moment.
No.
For obvious reasons. But yes, I mean, they gave us 2 for 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, bankers. But yes, otherwise, I think we had lots of fun, but it was spoiler-free. And we haven't used this in a while, but actually, because we are going to be talking about the film and everything that happens, we've got some facts, we've got some review critic feedback. Actually, if you haven't seen it and you plan to, you probably want to stop here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Go watch it.
And if you want a taste before you go and see it, the On The Go episode is there.
It is.
So it's spoiler-free. And actually, I think it's probably the first time I've not struggled to spoil it. Usually when we do the On The Go episodes, you're sort of always trying to refrain. But
exactly.
Actually, we did quite well in that one.
I think so. So yeah, pause it, go watch it, and then come back, because we're always going to be there. We are your cuddly blanket, and when you're ready, you can press play and pick up where you left off. But otherwise, here is... I was going to call it the weekly roundup because we're talking about the how long have we doing this? The On The Topic klaxon. This is the spoiler warning. Here it is. There you go. She hasn't been used in a couple of weeks, I guess.
No.
Not since Ant-Man? Would have been the last one?
Oh, don't know, actually.
Yeah. But she's a good one. She's been with us, ye old faithful, and it's nice to have her back. But yes, should we get into Mission Impossible MI7?
Yes, let's do it. So let's kick off with the synopsis. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a spy action film directed by Christopher McQuarrie from a screenplay he co-wrote with Eric Jendresen. It's the sequel to 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout and the 7th instalment in the Mission Impossible film series.
Can I just quickly say something, Dan? Sorry to break your flow here. I put this in my notes. I think the writers of this film are actually the true stars.
Easily.
The cast were good, but if you paid all those bucks, and we'll talk about how many bucks in a couple of moments, you expect them to be. And a lot of them are actually familiar faces. The writers of this film have done an amazing job. It's such a well thought, well paced, a well scripted film, and a lot of it can be down to the producers and the directors, right? And apparently there's a director's cut that exists, but we haven't seen it.
Really?
Do you know how long that is?
It's got to be. I mean, this was what, 2.5 hours? It's in my notes. 163 minutes.
Well, apparently originally it was 165, but those two additional minutes they lost was all they needed to lose. Apparently the director's cut is 4 hours, Dan.
No way.
And there's a petition to be released already. And it's only 2.5 weeks old, is it, by the time of recording?
Yeah.
And people are demanding that they see an extended cut. There will be an extended cut, obviously, because, well, there's so much to cram into this film, but I guess the issue is, would it still make as much sense as what we've seen in the cinema in the release, the theatrical release?
And who knew it'd be so relevant now?
This is the thing, we will come across it, but I mean, this was written, easy 3 years ago, if not older, and yet a lot of what they're talking about has come to light in the last 6 months. and it's very relevant. So great kind of foreshadowing from them. They're smack bang right in the middle of the whole kind of AI debate, and I think it's really interesting and very well timed.
Yeah, for sure. Dead Reckoning Part 1 sees Tom Cruise return as Ethan Hunt, whose IMF team match wits with a powerful rogue, here it is, AI, known as the Entity. So, it's produced by Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie. Of course, we know it's Tom Cruise production because of his infamous rant on set during the COVID times, which we'll obviously touch upon in a minute. Edited by Eddie Hamilton. The music, which is phenomenal, by the way, the score.
Oh, it's great.
By Lorne Balfe. Cinematography by Fraser Taggart. Budget of $291 million, which we'll talk about in a second. And at the moment, in the box office, is coming close to making its money back. $259.8 million. I'll be interested to revisit this in a few weeks when we're back to recording.
Yeah, they'll make all the money back up more. Now, interesting fact, Dan, I was looking at more numbers. So of the 7 films are made so far, they've made so far $3.8 billion.
What?
$3.8 billion from the 7 films they've got to date.
That's pretty impressive.
That's insane.
And you think a lot of cinema now is, Marvel films.
And they're struggling to rake in the audiences, so clearly when they do, they're making bank. And that's international market, that's not all domestic in the US. That's a massive number. That's insane. So yeah, big numbers, and it's only going to go north.
Yeah, you have to wonder, with inflation, how much would that be now? Because you think the first Mission Impossible was, 96?
Yes.
I don't think it had this. I mean, the figures you would probably see now.
No, definitely not. It's an entire and also it's a whole entirely different kind of industry, the cinema industry. And then when you throw in Tom Cruise there, who supercharges everything that he touches, it's going to be more money. It's going to be bigger, better, louder. Yeah.
And at 61, he doesn't look like he's giving up either. He's still running across rooftops and jumping off cliffs with motorbikes and God knows what.
Didn't you share a quote with me just in the last week about him?
Yes.
Am I stealing your notes? Am I? It's frantically flicking.
It is in my notes.
We'll
talk about it at the end.
Okay. We'll leave that tidbit there, but yeah, he's not going to slow down.
No.
No way.
So the cast.
Yes.
Let's talk about the cast. So we've got Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Hayley Atwell as Grace.
Brilliant.
Ving Rhames returns as Luther Stickwell.
Love him.
Love a bit of Simon Pegg. He returns as Benji Dunn. Rebecca Ferguson as Isla Forst.
Meh.
Vanessa Kirby as Alana Mitsopoulos.
So.
Esai Morales Gabrielle.
Good. Very good.
Brilliant villain.
Yeah.
Very cold. Pom Clementieff as Paris.
Unexpectedly good.
Shea Wiggum as Jasper Briggs.
Who?
He was one of the blokes on the train.
Oh yeah, the supporting actor. Yeah, from the government. Yeah, he was good.
Mariella Garriga as Marie, and Henry's Journey as Eugene Kittredge.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got Henry's surname right. Probably not. I mean, this is normal stuff from OTT.
This is standard fare.
So Alex, you've got some points of interest. So have I.
Yep.
Before we dive into the plot, we should probably talk about them.
Tell me.
So filming obviously began in Italy in February 2020. Talk about ill timed. But it was halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course it was one of the hotspots at the time of the pandemic. It resumed later that year and wrapped in September 21, with other filming locations including Norway, the UK, Italy and the United Arab Emirates. So it gets all over the globe.
Spreading that lovely COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not when you're Tom Cruise.
No, quite.
The rant is, I think we spoke about it in an episode around the time he did the rant. He's quite right. It's his film. He's the one.
And he's very clear. He's very clear. And I think we were talking about how he was. The guy's got so much money and so much literal skin in the game. I think those are even the terms I used back then. It's any wonder that he lost it, because he's bankrolling everything. So if you're paying your wage, and at any moment health and safety can come and go, right, you're stopped, he loses so much money.
Yeah.
and you do not mess with someone of his stature in Hollywood, even if it is short, and that's coming from a short person, you're gonna be in trouble. And I'm not saying that you speak to people that way in the workplace, but you can see also if he's telling people that they should be observing good, public health, and they're not, you're gonna get a shotgun blast.
Yeah, and of course at the time we know a lot of films halted production because of members of the team and actors, actresses catching COVID.
Yeah.
So,
It's big money. It's big money to be lost.
Exactly. It is the first film in the series since Mission Impossible 2, which was released back in 2000, not to involve J.J. Abrams
Yeah.
in any capacity, and is also the first film in the series to not be produced by Bad Robot Productions since Mission Impossible 3, which was released in 2006. We were just talking about Bad Robot Productions before we started recording.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So, it's a very iconic kind of intro card that they've got, and you can't miss it because usually the music's already started, as they always do. It's straight off the bat, even before the beginning credits have opened, and it was quite noticeable, at least for me, and no doubt for you, seeing them in back to back so recently, that it's quite notably absent. So, I do wonder what old Seth has done wrong to upset Mr. Cruz.
Yeah. With an estimated budget of $291 million, it is one of the most expensive films ever made. So, of course, that's why he's pissed off. This is why he's yelling at his crew.
Yeah.
And the most expensive in the franchise. But it shows. And obviously we'll talk about it as we sort of go through.
It does.
So let's kick things off with the plot. So we open with a crew on a Russian submarine called the Sevastopol. Now the equipment picks up what is believed to be an enemy sub firing on them, but it turns out to be a ghost, Alex. It disappears off this radar. Gone.
Very reminiscent, as I was watching it, of Tomorrow Never Dies. James Bond.
Oh yeah.
The guy who owns the paper, the newspaper, and they orchestrate a war in the South China Sea where a missile is shot what's believed to be from a Chinese warship and sinks an American sub. It's almost that kind of I'm going to instigate some kind of international crisis kind of aspect and feel. It's similar kind of synergies with that Pierce Brosnan film, the second one of his 4 or 3.
Yeah, it was the second one because he did GoldenEye, then it was Tomorrow Never Dies.
Then it's The World's Not Enough, and then Die Another Day. And I think that's he probably should have stopped at the end of the second one, because the second one, Tomorrow Never Dies, in 1997 was very good. But anyway, that's what brings to mind when I saw that scene. But it was a very, very good scene, very tense, and all the hallmarks of espionage. I loved it.
So, of course, they've already fired at what they believed was the an enemy sub, which has now disappeared.
It has.
And the torpedo does a U-turn.
It does.
Blows them up.
Nope.
It's really quite bleak because we see bodies hitting ice sort of on the surface of the water, and the main focus is on these 2 keys around the necks of 2 dead people, which is, quite bleak. It's grim.
But they never explained it, but it'd be interesting to know actually how they got hold of the keys.
Yeah. Because
they would be stuck under the ice floe, so someone would have had to have gone there, pick through the bodies, locate them first, pick through the bodies, which is not easy to do, and then be done with them.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be explained in part 2.
IMF agent Ethan Hunt's new mission is to retrieve half of the key from his ally Isla Forst, on whom IMF has placed a bounty. She's worth some serious bank.
She is.
He travels to the empty quarter in the Arabian desert, briefly unites with Isla and tells her to lay low, but not before a bit of shooty bang bang.
Yeah, really good scene. Reminiscent of Ghost Protocol with the sandstorm and in the Burj Khalifa. This is now in a desert, and it's very close quarters. You can't really see what's going on more than a couple of meters, and it's very claustrophobic. and a great scene. I really enjoyed it, even if it was quite fleeting.
Back in the US, Ethan infiltrates a meeting of the community where officials of various intelligence agencies, including former IMF director Eugene Kittredge and DNI Denlinger, discuss an experimental AI called the Entity. Now, this is why I thought it was going to be about biological warfare.
Yes.
Because in this room, you see someone put on a mask, and of course, big cloud of green shit goes up in the air.
People slump.
They all slump. Yeah. And that's why I thought, oh, this film could be about biological warfare. But actually...
I mean, they did that in Mission Impossible 2, mind.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 100%. I also didn't see that was Ethan in the mask. I thought it'd be a baddie.
So I was like, oh, it's actually Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Really good.
Now, it was originally designed to sabotage digital systems. The Entity went rogue, expanded to potential sentience, and infiltrated all major defence and military systems and intelligence networks. Clever stuff.
Not good.
Major powers are racing both to prevent sabotage and to gain control of the Entity. Now, believing that the Entity poses too great of a threat to humanity, Ethan decides that he wants to destroy it. Quite rightfully so. Because, this stuff's already creating ghost submarines and you turning your weapons against you.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to destroy it?
Exactly.
So he and his teammates Benji Dunn and Luther Stickwell travel to Abu Dhabi International Airport to intercept the holder of the other half of the key. Now, Ethan evades community agents as well as Gabriel, an Entity liaison with ties to his pre-IMF past, before losing the half key to professional thief Grace. Gets pickpocketed.
Yep.
Dope. Now, meanwhile, Luther identifies a piece of baggage containing a nuclear explosive sent by the Entity. This is clever AI, man.
It's really good.
Benji narrowly defuses it, only to find it empty. It is a proper race against time that sort of has you clenching your bumhole.
Most definitely. And I think that scene's almost reminiscent of...
Reminds me of the Tom Hanks film, Da Vinci Code.
I was going to say Da Vinci Code.
Yes, I knew we were on the same lines.
Because, again, he's got the code and the cipher. And, again, it's a similar kind of race against time. I was going to explain, actually, in my favourite parts, but I'll talk about it now, because it's more relevant, is I think this is one of my most favourite scenes or places that the film takes place in, because there's three different aspects all going off at the same time.
Yes.
You've got Ethan trying to avoid detection whilst working with this pickpocket who has their own means and, so we're led to believe, isn't aware of the bigger picture. He's then got Gabriel, who turns up as a ghost, and he thinks he's dead, which again harkens back to, I think, Mission Impossible 1. It's kind of that sepia kind of black and white, kind of dark and dingy feel when they do the flashback. And yeah, it's dealing with all those things, and then comes together in with the bomb as well. Comes together in just an absolute cluster. And then it all goes to pot, and everyone's chasing, and the bomb doesn't go off, but then they've got to escape, and they've got to run away, and then he's just running.
Well, we find out there is no bomb. The entire thing was empty.
And it's an interesting one, because airports are quite sensitive places.
Yes.
And thankfully, I think they handled it quite well, not scared too many people. But I think they used the concept of an airport very well for this set of scenes, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
You also had Luther hacking away at the cameras and making other people Ethan, and of course he's trying to rat away, and then he starts to sort of see all these other things, like I think Gabriel was sort of like a bit of a ghost, wasn't he? He sort of just disappears,
being erased in real time.
It's like, ooh, it's quite fascinating. It's a really good opening
Everyone's
sequence.
got a role to play in, and there's so many moving parts, but they all go together. It's perfectly written. I loved it. It's very
brilliant cinema. Keeps you captivated. Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Definitely.
So I would say that's probably up there. Wow, it's just a brilliant film. So they're rattled by the Entity's seeming precognition and the appearance of Gabriel. Ethan goes after Grace alone, where he tracks down into Rome. So Ethan tracks down Grace before community agents and Gabriel close in. After a lengthy chase, Grace escapes again, but Ethan is reunited with his team and Isla. Not before a nice chase through Rome in the yellow Fiat 500.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant sequence.
Yeah, and it was, at times, a bit silly, but I think the jokes and the silliness wasn't forced, unlike perhaps Guardians of the Galaxy. It was funny, kind of what's going on kind of moments, and then they just get back into it. And I think, many a time we kind of giggled at this concept of a retrofitted Fiat 500 going through the streets of Rome. But it was a great bit of direction.
Good chemistry as well, I'd say, between Atwell and Cruise for that sequence, because they're stuck in that tiny little car together, and one's trying to drive and the other one doesn't want to drive, and then they're trying to swap roles, and
which they did. I'll do this on purpose, listener and Dan, throughout this review, because I think there's so many different nods and synergies with the other 6 films that came before it, and that whole sequence was very much reminiscent of Thandie Newton's role in Mission Impossible 2. So on the motorbike, where I think she's on the motorbike and then she's doing the clutch.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Am I talking nonsense?
Yes.
I think that happens. Isn't it?
No.
And again, she's handcuffed to him, and they're switching around on the back, on the front. I think they're on the highway or something.
Yeah.
In Australia, and
they just like trashing cars.
They do.
They love trashing cars in these films. And unfortunately, Fiat 500 is no exception.
Nope. It got its fair share of the rubbish tip. I remarked on this on the On The Go episodes, but I didn't really expand upon it for obvious reasons. I didn't want to spoil things. Extraction.
Yes.
With Chris Hemsworth.
I haven't seen the second one yet. I need to dive into that at some point.
It's quite good, much the good kind of same thing. Because my point is, in that film, they do one shots and they literally hand the camera, the portable camera, through windows, so it's like a one-shot continuous scene. And it's very kind of... It's over-the-shoulder kind of film aspects. And this film kind of feels like it's taken a number of different cinematography best practice from more recent cinema and kind of pulled it together in this. And there's elements of this car chase that almost harkens back to Extraction.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. And I really enjoyed how they kind of brought it all together. It's almost a one shot as the car's kind of pulling 180s and handbrake turns, and it slams into mopeds. A lot of mopeds get written off.
Yeah, I mean, Pom, or known as Paris in the film,
yes,
she's just driving through Rome in her massive Beamer, and she's just taking out everything.
She's chowing down on that metal, and it really is immersive without making you want to throw up.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed what the director did there. Very, very clever, and made, because you could go at this stage and go, especially you after seeing them back to back more recently, and go, boring. It's another chase scene. But did you feel? And it's not a leading question. Did you feel that way, or
No.
do you feel engrossed and still fresh? And
no, it still felt fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, every story's sort of been different, and how could you not feel captivated by some of the stunts Tom Cruise is doing? Especially in his 60s now. The man's still raring to go, and he's quite fit.
He's a machine.
He doesn't care. He's breaking ankles and
taking names.
Still going.
Indeed.
Brilliant stuff.
But anyway, we digress. But I just wanted to kind of make reference to that, because I think there was a change up to the kind of the filming feel of it. It feels renewed, feels like it's a new direction. It's not just much of the same again. And I think it's some new stuff which we're seeing in other films, and I loved it.
Yeah. Another point I'd make, actually, having seen the films recently, like, no chase scene is the same. There's always something different, something that makes it sort of unique to that film, and doesn't feel like it's pulling on previous films.
No, I agree.
So, carrying on, with Benji and Luther providing support, Ethan and Isla infiltrate a party held by arms dealers, Alan and Mistopolis, in Venice, hoping to find the buyer for the complete key and learn its true purpose. Grace delivers the half key to Alana, and Ethan tries to dissuade a fearful Alana from selling the key. Enter Gabriel. Gabriel states that one of Ethan's comrades, either Isla or Grace, will inevitably die that night.
And this whole kind of precognition thing is a really interesting aspect to AI, because AI can control stuff, right? So, be it traffic lights to air traffic control, or to the world's banks, or to social media, or influence political events. I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you know what I mean? In all different kinds of films, they kind of do all those things and more, or more nefarious. And if I think about Eagle Eye, we talked about this, think out the cinema.
Yeah.
With Shia LaBeouf.
Yes, yeah.
Back in, I want to say 2015, 2016. My years might be off. I reserve the right to be fact checked at the end of this, listener. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, it's a gritty film, almost like an early noughties film, and it's all about. Oh, he's doing it now. Actually,
I'll have a look while you're talking.
He is. It's a gritty film about how AI has taken control and is doing all these things and carefully manipulating things around these two characters to inevitably lead to the end result. 2008, so I'm way off.
Yeah.
Was I?
You said 2015.
Yeah, way off. It's a really good film. I could highly recommend it if people haven't seen it. But it's got aspects of that, and precognition is an interesting, because this thing's looking at all the aspects and going, well, if I change this, they're inevitably going to do that, and if they do that, this means that they do this. And when it's very cold, and then you've got Gabriel there who, let's face it, he's probably been told that unless he does something, he's going to bite the dust.
Yeah.
And he's very cold and calculated. And I'll talk about why I think he's a great character and very well written and very well acted in just a little bit. But I think this scene is so pivotal, so important, because actually he lays out the grand plan, and actually no one in that room is safe. He hasn't got a gun on him, he's got a knife, but he's the most powerful person in that room and the most dangerous. And I think that's such a fantastic concept. They're all pointing guns at each other and probably at him, but he's like, you're not going to kill me, and I'm going to walk out, and
he's off.
And you either kill that lass or you kill that one, but you make up your mind, and I'll see you later. And that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's like is it Henry Blofeld, in James Bond?
Yeah,
he pulls all of the strings, makes it all happen. And at the end of the day, he's one of the most nefarious and intelligent and creepy sons of bitches in that room. And Gabriel is.
It's just so cold.
It's so effing good.
Cold.
It's so good.
The team scatters, with Ethan subduing but sparring Gabriel's subordinate Paris. Now, I've put my notes. This is a sequence that makes me really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
It's brilliant. So there's a fight that takes place in a narrow alleyway. It's gated off both ends, and Tom Cruise is basically fighting Paris and this other bloke. And, you know, there's poles, all kinds of weapons in that alleyway. There's
brickwork, there's metal work that heads are being slammed into.
Yeah.
And it's quite claustrophobic.
I mean, I say, he subdues Paris. He gets out of there, and of course, this is where we see. This is where the entity takes over. So Luther and Benji's comms are basically compromised. Yep. The AI is then guiding Tom through all these alleyways, and it's misguiding him. This
is really going to age this episode, but hey, we're talking about a film that's set in a particular time period anyway. Have you heard that the latest iOS release, as of the time of recording, which is due in just about 7 weeks or so, can mimic your voice?
Yes, isn't it being used for scams?
Yeah,
at the moment.
So effectively what you do is you read about 15, which sounds a long time, I don't know if anyone will actually do this, but 15 minutes worth of script, and it'll take your voice, and you can use it as like I guess an AI like supporting role, so it can read text to you. You can make it do commands. It's basically like Siri, but your voice, and it does it to middling effects, and I guess it'll depend on how you sound about how well it can manipulate or replicate that. But it's being done, and it's in the mainstream in consumer realms. That's really quite dangerous, ill-advised. I don't know,
because they used Martin Lewis. Is it Martin Lewis?
Yes, they did.
The Money Man.
Well, they did deep fake, a combination of two. Yeah,
it's quite scary. It's very, very accurate. I mean, I've even gone as far as sort of warning, close friends, family, if someone calls you, because our voices are quite easily accessible.
They are.
We've been doing the podcast for 5 years.
A dulcet tones.
So, if anyone gets a phone call from me asking them for money, ask them personal questions that only me and them would know.
But I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for that long, you know a lot of personal information about Dan.
You do, but there's probably certain things you'll never know.
That's right. That is
I hope so, anyway.
favourite box of colour. It's Spider-Man, by the way. It's red and blue. But anyway, yes, we digress. But I think that's an interesting kind of aspect that's coming to life now. And again, this was written 3-4 years ago, and it's due to be released. But anyway, yes, the comms are taken over, and directs him to I guess a bridge in Venice.
Yeah, obviously laptops get smashed, so comms are completely off the table by then. Gabriel and Grace is like just duking it out before Isla rocks up. Grace, gets taken out of the fight. Isla comes in, gets stabbed.
Yep.
Don't play with knives, kids. That's what I put in my notes. Don't play with knives.
It's just not worth it.
I'm starting to realise, and we talked about this in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 film review. I'm starting to find that writers and producers just starting to try to push the age certification on these films now.
Yeah.
It's really quite gritty, and there's another moment a bit later on where another knife comes out, and I'm like, it's 12A. Like, they are really...
Oh, is it? Yeah. I guess it is, yeah.
They are really sort of pushing the boundaries as far as they can these days, I think. That's not a bad thing. It makes it enjoyable for me as an adult, but
yeah.
Would someone of a 12 upwards, find that comfortable? I don't know. But I mean, over the years, when I was a kid, I probably watched some questionable films. It didn't really bother
definitely.
me.
And I was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger's End of Days when I was 12 years old, and that scared the living shit out of me. Still does. It's a freaky film. Do you remember it?
No.
Yeah, basically, like, it's hell on earth, and people get possessed by the devil, and it's basically him versus the devil. I'm not going to spoil it because it's like 20 odd years old, but there's a really gritty ending, and it's really quite gruesome, I think is a term to use. And I should have been watching that on VHS as a wee nipper, but then that's not the first, and it won't be the last time I've said that, because I clearly had the misguided youth or poor parenting.
We've briefly sort of touched on this in previous episodes as well, I think.
Yeah.
Questionable films that we probably shouldn't have been watching. Well, maybe that's an episode in itself, to be honest.
It might well be, and we talk about it, I think, in the next episode where we cover one of the Vault ones, which is the favourite 90s films. We talk about Independence Day, and when that came out, that was a 12A, and when we went to see it, we were 10.
Yeah.
And that's just one example of many where our parents are probably awesome, but quite questionable. But anyway, another cracking film from the 90s, End of Days.
Yeah. So a remorseful Grace is convinced to join Ethan's team, and they prepare to board the Innsbruck-bound Orient Express, where Alana will meet the buyer.
Yes.
Luther leaves for an off-grid location to investigate isolated traces of the entity in his hard drive.
See you later. We don't see him now until part 2.
No, that's it. He's gone.
He's gone.
On the train, Gabriel kills the engineer and fireman and destroys the throttle and the brake. We literally have a runaway train.
We do.
He meets Denlinger, who proposes an alliance between himself and the entity. Now, Denlinger explains that the complete key unlocks the chamber housing the computer of Sevastopol, the Russian submarine, which we saw at the beginning, which was sunk by his own torpedo.
Yeah.
This is where we actually learn what the entity is. An early version of the entity infected the system with the task of sabotaging the submarine's stealth capability, but instead tricked the Sevastopol into destroying itself. This early version is still on the submarine, and whoever can access it can devise the means to either control or destroy it. Gabriel kills Denlinger, quite gritty.
Yes.
And then attempts to kill Paris to ensure that only he knows about the key's purpose. Now, impersonating Alana, Grace brings the complete key to the buyer, who turns out to be Kittredge. Now, this was quite a brilliant moment, actually.
I agree, yeah.
So the impersonation is genuinely quite brilliant. This is what I put in my notes. This is something I picked out. So to make Vanessa Kirby distinguishable as Grace, She wears brown contact lenses. Her eyes are naturally blue.
Right.
And of course, we know Hayley Atwell has brown eyes.
Yes.
So it's always like a good way to distinguish that actually it's the goodie that's impersonating the bad person.
Yeah.
So my other half actually said something yesterday, and I actually had to listen to my notes sort of last minute. It's a bit like the Western films. So you always knew the good cowboy was wearing a white hat,
Right.
and the bad cowboy always wore black. So it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
So kudos to Chooks for mentioning that, because otherwise that probably would have made my notes.
No.
Good stuff.
Love a bit of Western.
She's going to be so proud when she listens to this, when she finally sees this film, Alex.
Yeah. Don't know when that'll be, man. 6 months, maybe?
We'll see.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out on digital, probably buy it. We were talking about this before we start recording, and
Add some more money to Cruise's deep pockets.
just take my money, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the second one. We'll talk about that in a minute as well.
Yep.
Though tempted to betray Ethan for a reward and protection for herself, she sides with him, pickpockets the key back, and runs off.
As you do.
This is the bit that really shit me up. Not because it was scary, but because it was unexpected. So, of course, we see Ethan, he drives off the cliff on his bike and parachutes down.
Yes, I know where you're going with this.
And then he crashes into the train as we think Grace is about to cark it.
Yeah.
And just... I don't know why I laughed as well. Maybe it's because it scared
shock.
shit at me.
Yes.
The shock. I laughed. It's quite brutal at the same time.
Well, they are also quite shocked because he's like, I didn't plan this. And Grace is like, what are you doing here? And then the whole audience is like, oh, I thought he'd land on top and then run, as he usually does, into the carriage. No, he comes straight through the window.
Smashes through the window, takes out the bad guy. It's about to take out Grace.
And in true fashion, he says, are you okay? She's like, I don't know. Are you okay? Like, you just come through a window and a parachute. He's like, yeah, fine.
But it's quite good because Hayley
really
Atwell's reactions, like, she is genuinely sort of shocked. She knows she's probably like seconds away from dying, and she's like, no, I'm not all right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Cruise wrote that and didn't tell her what's going to happen.
Yeah, just to shit her up.
That's one of the things that he would do to try and get that genuine, authentic look. But I mean, Hayley Atwell, it's not her first rodeo. She's a very good actress, so no doubt, she could pull it off. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did that.
Stuff has happened in previous films. We talked about it when we reviewed Die Hard last year for our Christmas special episode. Yeah. They dropped Alan Rickman.
He did. On the count of three.
Count of three, but they dropped him on two.
Yeah. See
you later, mate. Ethan empowers Gabriel, but does not kill him. Now, this is again a bit of an arse clencher. They're duking it out on top of the train.
Yeah.
As they're going under
low bridges and signs and stuff. Yeah.
There's a bit which
is reminiscent, of Mission Impossible 1.
Yeah. Where
he does again. It ends up on a train, but it's a bullet train, and again
there's a helicopter.
Things. There is that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is. It's far-fetched, but I mean, these are films. But yeah, and the blade just misses his neck by inches on that one. But that whole chase scene, and again, it's harkening back to all the good bits, all the little nuggets of the other films, and it kind of feels like it's a culmination of those things, which isn't a bad thing.
But again, they make this different from the first one.
Yeah.
You've got Gabriel and Ethan literally laying as flat as they can, going through a tunnel, and you've got Gabriel swiping him with a knife. Very
slowly edging forwards, isn't he?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's not going to die because there's going to be a part 2, but it's
sliced and diced.
It's very good. Again, another sequence makes you feel a bit claustrophobic because it's all kicking off. Gabriel escapes the trains and initiates a countdown to detonate the bridge ahead. So, of course, we've got a runaway train.
It's going to get blown up.
Heading towards a blowing up bridge. Grace and Ethan detach the locomotive and save the passengers just before they are about to plunge down the broken bridge.
The only thing with this, Dan, and I was thinking this as I was watching it, thinking, why would you not go from carriage to carriage and just unhook all of it? Because they didn't detach, I think, the engine part of the train from the rest of it. They still left a carriage attached to it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's just direction. They would have come across the reasons why you don't, because obviously the whole train would have slowed down and you wouldn't have a sequence of events that we saw. But I think that's a little bit of a plot hole, because you would have gone, this is out, they're at the front of the train. You go, I'm just going to detach the front of the train from the rest of it as I go through the carriages, move all of the passengers to the back of the train, and as you go through each of the carriages, you detach that carriage, because then the whole motion, the forward motion, will stop.
Yeah.
But hey, that wouldn't have made for a good film. So
No, quite.
what do I know?
They save Paris, but again, this is another brilliant sequence, because as the carriages start to go down the broken bridge, they've got an obstacle on each different carriage. Like the first one's like the kitchen, they're slipping up and down on the cooking oil, and then you get to one where they've got to
It's a piano, isn't it? And
jump up some tables, and there's the piano.
you never played the Uncharted games, did you?
No, but I've heard there is a sequence in Uncharted 2 that's very similar, isn't there?
It's brilliant. But you've now got a PlayStation 4, so I would recommend, when you have some dollar, I could buy it for you as a present for maybe your 30th, of course.
Making me feel young.
Yeah, this Christmas, Jesus. Get the collection edition because it's really good. And that's a great set of sequences, and yeah, it's very reminiscent. I think even the game director of Uncharted was like, mate, this has already been done, but you've done such a good job, I'm not going to sue you.
Yeah.
It's consistent, isn't it? If you know that someone's gone, that's my idea, but you've done it so well, you know you're onto a winner. And they're not going to their lawyers and going, I'm going to lawyer up and I'm going to take a bit of that.
Yeah.
7 billion, whatever it is.
I think they did that, the sequence where the piano drops a couple of times, because I watched something the other night on Sky One where Tom Cruise talking about all his different stunts through the films. He's got Simon Pegg, Hayley Atwell there, and the first time she jumped too early, and he was like, it doesn't quite have that impact. You need to jump at the very last minute, and of course that's how we get the sequence.
What, do you actually reckon there was a falling object?
I think there was.
I guess some point you can't really fake those things, can you?
No.
And I think you can tell that and this is by no means the first thing that comes to mind is the Jurassic World franchise. There's lots of those kind of moments where like the jaws of a dinosaur narrowly miss the legs or come crashing through a window, and you can just tell that the actor doesn't know the prompt.
Yeah.
They're told to jump, but they don't. The body's not reacting to the real world kind of situation, whereas I could probably actually believe you now. There probably was an object of a piano size, probably made of foam, and it was a case of you jump and oh shit, this isn't going to hit me.
I mean, some of the things they do with props now. I don't know if we did talk about this or not in the Guardians Volume 3 episode. You know, at the start when Nebula's carrying an unconscious
We
Chris
didn't
Pratt,
talk about this, but I know where you're going. Yeah,
but it was a pretty much weightless dummy version of him. It's brilliant. You can do so much with props now. It's just, these bastards are clever.
The right amount of money and the cleverer people can do anything.
Really can. So Paris informs Ethan of the Sevastopol before falling unconscious due to her injuries. I thought she was brown bread, to be honest.
She should be. She took it straight to the gut.
She's bled out, but no, turns out she's not. She's still alive.
Which I'm not sad about, actually. I think she's a really good addition.
Yes.
And I thought she was placed in here to be a familiar face, but ultimately should be written off very quickly. Almost a John Wick episode 2. Who's the actress Rose? I can't remember her name now. Who she did MMA. I think she did MMA. Anyway, it tends to be like throwaway actresses who they throw in there. They're familiar faces. They are pretty. They may be able to do a bit of acting, but ultimately they come and go. Whereas I think she was in the Meg 1 actually as well. Australian actress. Dan's very quickly.
Ruby Rose,
yeah. Much maligned for the Batgirl CW series. I don't think it was that bad, to be honest, but she was a little bit wooden, but hey ho. But she wasn't that. She has acting chops, so to speak, and she did this phenomenally, and actually I think she'll be great as a returning cast member for part 2.
Bring her back.
Please do.
I think there is a future for her in the franchise.
So good.
As Ethan flees the train, Grace informs Kittredge that she has chosen to join IMF. So
she's given a choice.
Looks like she's.
She takes the blue pill.
She
does.
does.
The red pill. I don't know which pill it is.
I don't know.
She's
anymore.
taking drugs.
Ethan meets with Benji and they drive off with the key that Ethan pickpocketed during his fight with Gabriel. Of course,
Into the
Gabriel
sunset.
looks very pissed off
He does.
that the key's gone. And that's where we end.
Roll credits. No post-credits scene.
No.
Of course, you know that, listener, because you didn't sit through it. But don't worry, you didn't miss anything. We did, and then you quickly did a quick Google search because you can't really get much signal in the cinema, which is probably a good thing because you don't have people on their phones. And he said there's no post-credit scene. And there was a couple of people sat behind
They did.
thinking that they'd see something.
I think we are spoilt with cinema now these days anyway. You know, there is a post-credit scene, for example, in the Super Mario film, which I watched recently.
Right.
So yeah, stick to the end of the credits. Sometimes it is worth it, sometimes it isn't. And of course, while the credits were rolling, we had a quick Google when we did get some rare signal in there, and turns out there wasn't. And off we went.
We did.
And carried on with the On The Go episode.
To where we are today. So I've got some facts down. And
Yes, we love some facts on the OTT.
I mentioned this before, but according to Macquarie, the original cut of The Dead Reckoning was 3 hours long. He said, with every cut we knew it could be better, and we knew it could be tighter, he says. And when we finally screened it for the last test audience, and we're happy with the result, we're about 2 minutes longer than we are now, and we walked away from it. The studio was very happy, the scores were great, they are.
It was.
But we still knew we had issues, and we knew we had issues with the pace and the length, which is only 2 minutes, which is interesting. So I wonder what kind of fluffed it out. But anyway, we went back into the editing room, reconfigured the first act, and ended up taking 2 minutes out of the movie, which was critical.
Possibly just Tom Cruise running on the airport roof for too long.
Probably.
That's all I can think of, because I mean, the pacing of that film is perfect.
Painstakingly so, but I mean, they had additional COVID time, I guess, downtime to do it. An interesting one, again, this kind of illustrates just how much of an industry that Cruise has created. Vanessa Kirby says filming was so specific she did 40 takes of her simply picking up a key.
40 takes?
40 takes, just picking up a key. So that's close up of her hand and lifting it up. Now, she says we did 40 takes to pick up a key, and it was so fun because actually you realise by taking 30, you're thinking as an actor, yeah, you just pick up a key. But I thought, how many ways can a human be picking up a key, she says. I don't know if that's a stream of consciousness, but I'm not quite sure if I understand what she means. But I'll read on. That's just one tiny example, but in many moments you get to play many, many different things because you get the opportunity because there's time and space. And it's a process of, let's see what comes out. And we have loads of times in the edit putting things together that are unusual and allow for, rather than, we're so used to having one or more takes sometimes in films when it's a small budget. Still not quite sure that makes any sense, but I think what she's saying is it was meticulous, and whilst you may have a couple of takes and take the best one, actually it's got to be perfect. And actually, she picked up a key 40 times and they found that one perfect take.
At no point picking up my house key or my car key do I think, oh, how many different ways can I pick this up? I just want to get out of the house.
I've got the keys
and I want to go.
But yeah,
I've got some in my hoodie. 2 seconds. Okay. Are we practicing this now?
Well, why not? Let's see it. Let's see you picking up these.
This
keys.
is some real stuff happening right now on the episode. Here we go. All right, so I've got my keys. Look.
Describe your keys. So you got your car keys on
my
there.
My car key. I've got a key ring.
What's that? St. Lucia.
St. Lucia, which my parents brought back for me.
Oh,
I've got #1 gamer.
Oh, that's in the form of a controller.
We've got my house key, my parents' house key, and a Spider-Man key ring.
That's a Funko Pop style, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely looking.
So try pick up those keys, Dan. So you've gone for the main ring holder.
Yeah.
That's logically you would do.
And I picked up with my forefinger and my thumb.
And you've got the other fingers sticking out like it's a fine cup of china.
So that's how I just normally pick up my keys up.
You're doing it again. So it's pretty consistent. But I don't like that, Dan. Go for something different.
Okay.
See, I can't see the keys now because what he's done is he's grabbed it by the whole hand, clasped it all in one hand in his fist, and then swiped it away. So, as a director, I wouldn't like that because I can't see your keys now, Dan.
No. Okay.
And he's picked up 2 keys by his finger and his thumb, with the rest of the keys tucked under in his palm.
But let's not forget, this is a singular key.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You know what I mean? I can see that. I can see kind of what he's getting at. But if for the film's purposes, I know it doesn't really work in the medium of podcasting, people. Apologies, but you kind of get what I'm getting at. It kind of does make sense that you can fixate on how things look, and something that can be quite awkward as a key, perhaps it can take that many cuts. I don't know. But I mean, imagine if they're doing it just for a key close-up. What have they done for the rest of it? And if they've done that, no wonder there's fucking 4 hours of footage, because you've got all of these various different variations of scenes.
Yeah. Imagine being on the cutting room floor, you know, and trying to pick out, that one's quite good. And then you sort of start to narrow down those 40 takes. You're like, wow, we've got 5 of them now. Which one's the best one?
I hate to edit and
that would do
to
my head in.
That'd be too much.
I've got quite a lot of patience, but having to go over something 40 times, narrow it all down, and then choose the best one, I don't.
And you know, crews would be saying, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we're 5 hours overrunning, we haven't had dinner, but you're going to stay in here, the door is locked, I swallowed the key, you've got to wait for me to shit it out. We are going to finish this scene until I defecate in the corner of the room and I get that key and we open the door.
I cannot wait to write this episode synopsis for social media. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's a dumpster fire, but you would expect nothing less from the OTT.
How many times can you pick up a key in different ways?
Off a steaming pile of turd in the corner of the room. That's the only way you're getting out of that room, because Tom Cruise ain't letting you.
Yeah.
I joke, please don't sue me, Tom, but you understand what I'm getting at. He's a perfectionist, and I'm sure that was one of many.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly away before we get sued. Favourite bits, Dan? We've talked a lot about them anyway, but I'll just recap.
I sort of shoehorned all my favourite bits and uncomfortable bits as we've sort of gone through the synopsis. But Alex, much better than I am writing his notes up, has broken it down.
There's just a couple. So I talked about the airport scene. I think it's well choreographed. A number of different kind of side stories all kind of culminated in one, which had Tom Cruise running away, of course.
We've got a ghost at the door.
We have the doors opening. It's a bit too early for our Halloween episode. Our 4th Halloween episode. I think the identification of Gabriel was reminiscent of the first film, and I loved that. The car chase scene, of course, was reminiscent of Rogue Nation's BMW chase scene, which I thought was very good. Hayley Atwell, Alana, and the broker switch you mentioned was phenomenal. Vanessa Kirby, you thought was Hayley Atwell. I don't even know how that's possible, but she did such a good job, and I think she was probably underrated in Fallout. I didn't really like the character. I thought she was too sassy. I didn't think she earned the right to be that kind of that villain. Yeah. In this film, I actually warmed to her quite a lot. Now, I don't know whether that's because it was better writing, because she had time to develop as a character. We saw more of her, and we did in this film. But I really enjoyed Vanessa Kirby's acting in this. I thought she was brilliant. We talked about Pom, great as a character of Paris and how unexpected that was. Gabrielle.
Yeah, brilliant villain.
Brilliant protagonist. He's not protagonist, he's the baddie. I think he had the right amount of self-righteousness, and probably I think he is the scariest villain yet. Because one who comes close is Sean Harris in the previous film, where he believes in cleansing the earth and laying it all to waste. If he survives, great, but otherwise he sees himself as dying for the greater good of humanity by resetting kind of the world. And there's that element of almost like Thanos, how you believe so much in what you're looking to do that you don't really have a care for your own well-being. Yeah. You just have a care for seeing it through. I think Gabriel is very similar. We don't quite know still his motivations. Obviously, the entity's got something over him, but he's still very clear and very believable in his own conviction. What's going to happen is going to happen, and you just need to get with it, and you need to do what I say because it's going to happen regardless. And that cold kind of outward acting, which is brilliant, very good. AI, the perfect MacGuffin. Are you familiar with the MacGuffin term?
No. Do elaborate. What is a MacGuffin?
Glad you asked, Dan, because I've got notes here. In fiction, the MacGuffin is an object, device, or an event that is a necessary to plot and the motivation of the characters, but insignificant or unimportant or irrelevant in itself. The keys are the MacGuffin. Yeah. They don't do anything.
They're just there to essentially control it or destroy it.
Correct.
That's it.
And people are running around to try and get hold of these keys, but in reality, they don't do anything. And I think having AI as like a nondescript kind of a intangible baddie enemy concept is fantastic. So those are the bits I loved, but the things I didn't like, Dan, there's only a couple here. The bike stunt.
Okay.
It has been covered incessantly for the last 2.5 years that Tom Cruise built this complex stunt, this whole framework that goes off the side of a cliff. People told him he couldn't do it, he shouldn't do it. Nearly probably didn't get insured to do it. No other stunt coordinator could do it. He had to do it and did 40, 50 times.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, I'm not sure whether because it's been covered so much or is part of the promo, but actually when you saw it in film, that whole sequence was probably 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Was it worth it?
Yeah.
And I don't think it was, because CGI is and they even CGI'd out the ramp that they built for him to be flung off this mountainside. Did he really have to do it? And I guess my question I've written down here is, who's Tom Cruise doing this for now? I'm not convinced he's doing it for us. And that's okay, because it's his production, his money, and he does it so well, and he enjoys it, and he wants that authenticity. But do we care enough that Tom Cruise is putting himself on the line to strap himself to the side of a plane that he doesn't need to, or throw himself off a cliff when CGI can do 2/3 of that? I don't know, Dan. And I know that sounds ungrateful, and I feel bad about saying it out loud and committing to the internet in audio, but should he do that?
I mean, he's been very open as well. And so if anyone has Sky One at home and they can watch the program I watched the other night, he's very open and says, a lot of these stunts hurt him. And at what point? When does it become worth it? You're in bed after doing the stunt, God knows how many times, to try and get the perfect shot, and you're probably hurting all over. You're probably not going to get a lot of sleep because you're in pain. Is it worth it?
When CGI can do most of it, we couldn't tell a difference. When a lot of that set was already CGI'd, I just don't know, Dan.
Don't get me wrong, it's impressive that he can still do it, and he's got the physique.
And I love the choreography, and I think the design and the storyline all worked well. But for what was 30, 45 seconds, I just question whether he needs to do that.
Yeah.
But if he's in it for the authenticity, and he's in it for the fun, he's in it for the love of the film, brilliant. But I just question, really, who was that for?
Yeah.
But that might only be because we've seen this many times over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Again, sounds ungrateful, but I'm just saying it like it is. I'm just not sure if there's a place that's needed for it now. Rebecca Ferguson. She's been in 3 films now.
Yeah, just
Ilsa. I didn't like her. I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to. I didn't buy the whole relationship and love interest. It kind of touched a nerve at the end of Fallout, where he sees his ex-wife in the base camp, and they're like, "Oh, who's this?" And that's your ex-wife, and well, he's banging her now, and I'm like, But otherwise, I'm like, do I care that she's dead?
Nah. I didn't feel
I don't get it. I like the whole kind of cat and mouse thing in was it definitely in Fallout. Was she not in Ghost Protocol 2 as well?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, when you could tell that she was basically going to cark, because look, Hayley Atwell is fresh blood. She's now part of the crew. We know that at the end. I think that's genius, by the way. I think it's great that they're bringing in new members to the IMF, and I think that she's a great addition. I think she'll be phenomenal, especially with her skill set as a character. The thief, and a pretty face at that. I think she's great. Was she a fair swap? I think for Ferguson. Probably, given I didn't care too much about Ilsa.
She wasn't in Protocol, by the looks of things.
Alright, so just the last one. But it just kind of proves a point, perhaps just my poor attention span. I just didn't really make notes didn't care too much about her as a character. And I'm sorry, but it's true, and we were supposed to care that she's bleeding out on the steps of Venice. But all I can think about is that poor city having blood on its steps. Because it's a beautiful city. I didn't really care too much about the character. And that is my only set of criticisms. The stunts, but didn't need to do them because I think you could have got the same effect in the outcome. Because we're stupid as audiences, we wouldn't have known any better. And Ilsa. Sorry.
Yeah.
But otherwise, everyone else was phenomenal.
I mean, the fact you've only got 2 there is quite impressive. I mean, we usually pick these films apart in our film reviews, and we've usually got like a list. It's probably mostly the Marvel films, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it's fine.
It could be rose-tinted glasses, Dan, because we are still relatively fresh, under a week since we went to the cinema, but I still can't think of anything that I didn't like about it. And I think it is the blockbuster film of the year. Whether you think it's Oppenheimer, whether you think it's the Barbie movie, all jokes aside, and they are jokes, this film has it all. And to that effect, so far, and they will fluctuate up and down, probably down as it tends to be, but for the reviews, well, Rotten Tomatoes, critics said 96%, with a world-threatening stakes and epic set scenes to match that massive title. This film proves that it's still a franchise you should choose to accept. Audience, not far behind at 94%.
Ooh, that's pretty decent.
Not bad. With a terrific cast and some beautifully shot stunts. Can't say that when you've had a couple of red ones. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 might be the best action movie of the year.
Agreed.
100%. I can't see anything that's in this year's slate that would be close to that.
No.
And for the amount of money that, Dan, you mentioned at the beginning, 230 mil, was it?
291 mil.
Oof.
So I mean that's
not small fry.
No. That's
So
serious
yeah,
bank.
For those reasons alone, it's a great film. And we joked as we were walking up the dimly lit hallway to our lovely comfy reclining chairs in Portsmouth and Gunwharf, how we could go into this fully enjoying it, because with an MCU film, you're always thinking about, what's this scene relate to, and what's this mean for the story and for the character development, and are there Easter eggs, and is that new for the comics, and is that now new to the MCU? And you do enjoy it, but you're really paying an awful lot of attention, and you can't really relax. This film, I relaxed and still had a lot of fun, and it was all those things that you mentioned. We still came away with big grins on our faces, and there's not that many films that you can say that now. No,
I mean, we're often quite critical when it comes to got a buck and seagull like that. I say we're often quite critical of films when we review them.
Yeah,
but I'm finding it really hard to find any criticism in this. Genuinely. So a little bit on the future. A direct sequel, Dead Reckoning Part 2, is scheduled to be released on June 28th next year, after being delayed by that damn COVID-19 pandemic. It was initially billed that both films will be a send-off to Ethan Hunt, but last month, Macquarie told Fandango that Part 1 and Part 2 would not end the series.
No.
And they were developing ideas for future instalments. In July 2023, or this month at the time of recording, during promotion for Part 1, Cruise expressed interest in continuing to make further films in the series as Ethan Hunt. So this is... let's rewind back to the start of the episode where we were talking about how he's 61 and doesn't appear to be slowing down.
No.
He intends to match fellow screen legend Harrison Ford, who's now 80, who recently filmed his 5th Indiana Jones installment. And Cruise said this: Harrison Ford is a legend. I hope to be still going. I've got 20 years to catch up with him. I hope to keep making Mission Impossible films until I'm his age.
And if the next film has been filmed already, and it's just being edited and they're biding their time probably, or some slight tweaks, but it's been done, and Cruise was the same age when he did it, so what's that, 58, 59. The next Mission Impossible film that he'll do, if he still continues, he'll be 64?
Yeah.
When he's doing those stunts. If I'm betting man, I reckon he will continue to do the character, but I think it's time for him to probably introduce someone to hand the self-destructing tape over to, and I wonder who that's going to be. But I don't think he's got many films where he can continue to do all the things he can do and still be front and centre. Doesn't mean to say he doesn't have a role to play in those films. He can be behind the scenes, or he can be the next Director General who controls all the IMF. But it's interesting to see what future he has in a franchise, but it's making all that dollar, all that bank. He doesn't want to stop, doesn't need to stop. I think that's a really interesting part in his career, and I'm really keen to see where it goes.
Yeah, same. On to the listener.
Oh yeah, we got some.
So Hannah, she says, me and Evie loved it. She weirdly refers to Tom Cruise as Daddy.
Huh?
As Daddy.
Okay,
well, we can't help you there, Hannah.
Okay. Is there a need for a paternity test, or is this something?
I
don't
know. She's got the little melty smiley emoji on the end of her comment. So is that embarrassment? I don't know.
Wow.
But
imagine him being your dad.
Wow, he owes me a lot of money. He's got 31 birthdays. Well, I'll say 31. Shut up, Dan.
You wish.
I'm 37. You got 37 birthdays to catch up, mate. And my 38th ain't far away. So
you better be writing those checks.
And those birthday cards.
Yeah.
I want an electric car.
Do you?
Yeah.
You want a new house to go with it, obviously.
I mean, I don't want the... I don't want the adult version. I want the child version. It's going to be too big for me, but too small for me.
Your knees up near your chin.
My knees up, yeah. I would be driving around the streets of Old Portsmouth in that bad boy.
Okay.
It's got to be Ferrari as well.
Yeah. Okay.
It's my dream.
I'd love to see that. How far you get before a drunken student hijacks and drives away.
Maybe I should put it into Bing AI and upload it for around the time of this episode.
That'd be amazing.
I'll get on it.
No, Dan, that'd be so cool. See what it turns out. We're having a lot of fun with Bing AI since the dead internet. I think he's done some really cool stuff.
I've been producing some quality content actually for the pod socials.
It has. I'm just really intrigued because you did one, I think today. I'm not sure if you'll end up releasing it, which was Alex and Dan deliver an explosive episode.
It's really bleak.
And it's just a random smoke fire in the background with swarms of people behind us, and one of us is with a camera and the other one's reporting on it. It's really random.
It really looks like we're filming part of our crowd.
Apocalypse.
Just combusting. It's really quite terrifying. I don't know how this stuff creates it.
But I mean, he's only generating what's being fed, so he thinks that's what we want because other people have fed it that.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's why we can't have nice things. I keep on saying that, but the internet's not a nice place, and no wonder it wants to kill us. AI just, it's not going to be good, and that film shows it. Because
maybe Ultron had a point.
Maybe. There we go.
So yes, what we've got coming up in the future? Well, Alex, you're away for 3 weeks.
Yes, indeed, other sides of the world, hopefully. So we have, though, listener, got some delicious audio content, some Vault content to tide you over whilst we're both enjoying ourselves during the summer holidays.
Well, I won't be enjoying myself. I'll still be working, but you'll be enjoying yourself.
Hopefully. So yes, we've got our conspiracy theories Volume 1.
Yes, so that's back from the weekly roundup days.
It's going to be next week.
This really kicked off our left field episode niche.
After that, we've got favourite 90s films, Volume 1.
Yes, good episode.
We touched on that, and that's really good fun. And then we're going to have a week's break before then finishing off the Vault series for the summer. And that's going to be your favourite all-time baddies.
Yes, some good episodes there. They're worth diving into. Anyone wondering what a Vault episode is? Well, before we became on the topic, we were known as the Weekly Roundup with Alex and Dan, and these are episodes we're pulling from that channel, essentially, although it's all under one roof if you follow us on your favourite podcast channel, and we're bringing it onto YouTube, which we're only dropping on the topic episodes on.
Yeah, and we're bringing it forwards because actually a lot of this we talk about and they're always relevant, and they're all really good episodes, and otherwise... Look, guys, you're going to have to go all the way back a good couple of years to dig around and find those nuggets. And some of it, because of the nature of that channel at the time, were weekly reflections on popular culture, so stuff in the news. And all of it was interesting and relevant, but actually we did some standalone episodes, and actually those are the ones we are bringing forward, so actually you don't have to do that lead work. We bring it, we talk about it, we intro it, and then we play that episode. And if you haven't listened to it, they're really good fun. And we're only choosing the good ones, right?
Yeah.
And these are absolute corkers.
And it's worth diving into Volume 1 of 90s films, because there's going to be a Volume 2.
There is, yeah.
So over the time Alex is away, I will be pushing on socials your favourite 90s films for a Volume 2. It's going to be nice to revisit them without that hangover cure of a disaster film, for sure.
No, indeed.
And a left field episode to follow that one up. Mind-blowing facts.
I found some interesting stuff on the internet, as you do, and I post a couple to Dan and piqued your interest, and there's some bonkers things actually when you start to dig, and not too deep underneath the surface actually, and there's things which, by the very nature of the title, just makes you think, how is that possible? And actually we want to put them all into a lovely, hopefully incoherent episode, as they usually are with us, with lots of segues and anecdotes, and share those with you listeners. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of episodes.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So bit of downtime for us, and then we're back with 2 brand spanking new episodes. It can be really good. So, if you want to get in touch, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads,
YouTube.
YouTube.
Well, I'll talk about that, yeah.
We'll talk about that. So, all the handles are @onthetopicpod. Our Gmail account is onthetopicpodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us instead. And Alex, YouTube, I believe, is @OTTGITS.
It is, yeah. Hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, and you'll be notified when a new episode drops. At some point, we'll actually have unique video content. We've got to think about how we do it. It's not too difficult. We've got camera phones and editing technology. It's more, we need the right setting. We do have studio access, but it's about doing it at the right time and for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you can put it on the background whilst you're watching YouTube, perhaps if you're working or at home, doing some cooking or whatever. If you haven't got a podcast preference of choice, then it's all on there for you to watch and listen to.
Yep.
We've also got our website, says WordPress as well, so it's ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. We've got our ugly mugs, our bios, we've got our affiliate content provider, Morbid and Mundane, some lovely t-shirts and Etsy stores, our newsletter, so again you can be notified that way when a new episode drops. And we've got some bonus content on there, so we drop some content. We talk often in the medium of imagery as well, so we've got some stuff there from our 5th birthday, May.
Yeah.
We talk about crisps, obviously. We've got stuff there about the dead internet, and some more nightmare fuel for you to go and have a look at. So yeah, it's not just about regurgitating the content that you're listening to now. There's some additional bonus content, so go and have a look and a wander around our website.
Just fleshes those episodes out just that little bit more.
It really does.
Beautiful stuff. It's a nightmare fuel.
It really is.
Well, that's it. That's it for another week. We'll see you back in August.
Indeed.
But in the meantime, if you haven't listened to these full episodes, go check them out as they drop. But for another week, I'm diving off cliffs on a bike. I'm Dan.
And I'm now wearing Dan's face, and I'm whipping it off, much to everyone's surprise and delight. I'm Alex.
More nightmare fuel by the sounds of things. And we'll see you next month.